Well, today we have updates on both sides of the expansion aisle. That would be the Big 12 and one of the four potential schools that could be a member by the end of the week. Welcome into the YouTube channel. I am John Kurtz. If you have not subscribed, please consider doing so. I talk college football every day on this channel. Right now, that means conference realignment every day on this channel. I try to give the Big 12 a voice when there's not much of one out there nationally. And boy, things are finally looking up a bit for the Big 12 and specifically the 8 schools left behind. We took another step forward toward adding 4 teams to the conference on Monday. In fact, what we learned on Monday should take care of some of those fears that the Big 12 can still screw this up. Even though we saw last Friday that it was reported within the next week, it's likely that invitations would essentially be extended and accepted for BYU, Houston, Cincinnati, and UCF. Here's what we got today. It comes from Pete Thamel of Yahoo Sports, first and foremost on the Big 12 side. He says Big 12 presidents held a meeting on Monday. Here are the details. No votes took place, so this was not anything totally official as of right now, but it was an informational meeting to go over the impending applications of UCF, Cincinnati, BYU, and Houston to join the league. Because that is what will happen. You'll get the official applications from those 4 schools, with the Big 12 again using that 2016 application process as well as a part of the legalities here to say, hey, it wasn't us going out and tampering and reaching out to these teams. They came to us. Here's the rest of the first tweet from Pete Thamel. Applications are expected to come within the next 48 hours. A formal vote is being planned for later this week, likely on Friday. All systems still appear on track. And here's a quote from his source. It says, quote, "We're heading toward adding 4 teams in the next short period of time." So short period of time, still more vague. It's keeping it open more. Hey, if something bogs down this week, it is a holiday week, right? A lot of people aren't working today. Obviously, the Big 12 still is. But if something were to happen, it's not putting a total timestamp on it by the end of this week, which is smart because how often do people just clown on the Big 12 for messing things up? If a source or somebody were to get out of line a little bit and say, hey, we have this as a specific date for when it's going to happen, and then it didn't for whatever reason, even if it's small, minor, something that's not really a screw up, you know that everybody would be out there jumping on it. So kudos to the source for the way that they handled that. Here's the rest of what Pete Thamel had to say. The tentative projection remains that the 4 teams come in for the 2023 season. That means 2 more Big 12 seasons at 10 teams and 2 at 14 before the Oklahoma and Texas planned departure after 2024. The league could still consider another round of expansion prior to the new television deal, which obviously would be in 2025. So there are a couple things that are really interesting to me here from this. One, all of this shows that there is really that sense of urgency for Bob Bowlesby. He's really cooking on this thing and wants to get it going. All gas, no brakes. Monday, it's a holiday. It doesn't matter. He's working on it. We already know that, and you've heard all my thoughts on that. But 2, this also tells me, based on that timeline, hey, 2023, the Big 12 isn't going to worry much about Oklahoma and Texas and what their plans are and what they're doing. It's not going to stop the league from doing what is best for the other 8 members. And I really like that attitude here. You know, there was a lot of talk for a while there about we don't know exactly how this would work with Texas and Oklahoma. And I'm sure there are still details to figure out, and it'll be messy and all of that, and Texas and Oklahoma may still leave early, but you figure all of that out later. The first thing that you need to do is just go add these teams, solidify yourself, strike while the iron is hot, and who cares what Texas and Oklahoma are going to do after that? Because there are some simple facts here. If the 8 schools are unified, if the remaining 8 are unified, you do not need Texas and Oklahoma's vote to move forward with expansion. You get 8 out of 10, you have the supermajority vote that you need. Expansion can happen, bada bing, bada boom. Texas and Oklahoma don't have to be happy about it. They can vote against it, and it just doesn't matter. In the end, you still have their grant of rights through 2025, so if Texas and Oklahoma were to decide to leave early, that means their home games, the money for that, would still come back to the Big 12, even if they are playing in the SEC. You can still hold them to that. You can obviously still hold them to the $80 million exit fee, and they still are required to give you 18 months notice as of right now. So, look, that's what you do. You continue to hold their feet to the fire. You move forward with expansion. Who cares if they're going to be upset about having to play in a 14-team conference, or if this now puts more pressure on Texas and Oklahoma to leave early and try to figure all of that out? Doesn't matter. Deal with it. You guys made your decision. The Big 12 and the remaining 8 teams and Bob Bowlesby, they've also made theirs, and that is to move forward with expansion right now. And on that front, this does make me wonder about Texas and Oklahoma and if this gives them more of a sense of urgency to get out early. Remember the timeline here, 18 months. If they were to notify the league by December, they could be out in time for that 2023 line of demarcation here where the Big 12 looks to be adding 4 teams to the league. So this, I would think, pushes Texas and Oklahoma more toward that and expediting that process, even though the grant of rights, again, will still extend and the Big 12 would take some of that money back from their TV home games there for a couple of years. I can't imagine Texas and Oklahoma wanting to sit through a 14-team league that's in the middle of transition, and now all of a sudden they're going to have to go play these games against UCF and Houston and BYU. I don't think Texas and Oklahoma want to deal with that. I don't think they want to risk losing games to those schools and kind of just make them more of a joke, a meme on their way out to the SEC. And some of the finances of that would get very tricky too, right? Like, I don't even know. I'm not sure that anybody knows exactly how that would work with the TV contract. And then are you splitting it 14 ways? Might mean less money for people. I would just think Texas and Oklahoma want to wipe their hands of it. And honestly, the Big 12 probably would at that point too. As long as you're still getting the financial benefits from Texas and Oklahoma leaving early, who really cares at that point? Just do the 2 years, make the swap, get rid of 2, bring in 4 more. I would think that that's where we're headed. The other part of this too will be, okay, if you are really planning on 2023, like that source is seemingly indicating 2023 football season, you'd have the 4 new schools. There's also that tricky part of the AAC negotiation, because the AAC right now, with their bylaws, requires 27 months notice, not 18. So that would mean that if right now those 4 schools this week, if they gave notice they're leaving, the 27 months would take you to December of 2023. So you would miss that 2023 football season. Now, the AAC did negotiate with UConn in years past, but as I've said repeatedly here on this channel, I cannot imagine them being as nice, as kind, as willing to work with these schools right now because of what this is going to do in terms of the impact to their conference. Think about how the Big 12 would view Texas and Oklahoma here. How much do you really want to work with them on trying to cut them some kind of a break? So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe that still does happen, but that's definitely a hurdle to keep in mind here. Now, one other quick note from the other side here, and that would be Houston. We do know that Houston is definitely moving forward because Joseph Duarte of the Houston Chronicle, who covers Houston, did report today that the University of Houston Board of Regents has called a special meeting for Tuesday that will include discussion about joining the Big 12. At the meeting, Regents are expected to vote to move forward with the application process to join the league. Very short report, nothing more to it than that, but I'm not sure that we need more to it than that because we know where the Big 12's headed. Now we know that Houston, at least one of those schools, is moving forward with the Board of Regents meeting. Everything looks like it's on track right now, guys. And again, to me, this is exciting. All right, coming up on the channel this week, there will be much, much more. Mike Gundy talked at length about expansion at his press conference today. There are some encouraging potential TV numbers for Big 12 schools with this new league from Dennis Dodd of CBS Sports. And we got some details on what ESPN was going to offer the Big 12 money-wise for the next TV contract before Texas and Oklahoma decided to leave and how that was the linchpin moment. So all that is coming up. Please subscribe if you have not here on this channel. I am John Kurtz. Once again, I talk college football every single day, conference realignment every single day right now, really trying to give the Big 12 a voice. You can follow me on Twitter at JL Kurtz. Follow me on TikTok and Instagram, John Kurtz Show, and I will talk to you guys soon.